Hey everybody, Jim here from Clockwerk Industries. Welcome to another video. This is going to be a review and unboxing video of the Cooler Master Masterwatt Lite 600 watt power supply. I'm also going to be doing a brief sleeving tutorial, as this whole power supply is actually not a fully modular power supply. So I'm going to show you guys how to take the power supply shell off and sleeve the wires all the way down into the power supply, giving it a nice clean professional sleeving look. The main thing I'm going to do is kind of go over this whole power supply, unbox it, show you guys all the accessories, everything that comes with it, kind of go over what I do for sleeving my own cables. Stay tuned if you guys want to take a look at this power supply and learn how to sleeve a couple cables. Okay, so as you can see, it's not a fully modular power supply. It's not modular in any way, but it's a great entry-level power supply for any system that is not going to the extremes, because I see a lot of people out there that get 1,000 watt fully modular power supplies with 80 different extra cables, and they have one GPU, no water cooling, an all-in-one unit if that, or an air cooler. People are going totally overkill on their power supplies. This is the perfect setup for a single GPU all-in-one cooler, which is exactly what this system is going to be before I go in and fully water cool it. I need to get the system up and running to do all the hardware reviews that I need to get done for this project. So this is the perfect starter unit for that. I'm not quite sure if this is going to work out in the end with the full custom loop, all the fans running simultaneously, the dual pump or whatever pump I decide to use. Having all of that running and the 1080, this might be just a little bit short. I'm going to see how it plays out in the end. For now, it's everything I need to get through the rest of these videos. I'm going to go ahead and read off these specifications on the side of the box here for you. ATX power supply, 12 volt. You can use 110 or 220 depending on the power cable you use. I believe it has a sensor inside that'll switch automatically for you, so you don't got to worry about flipping a switch. For the cables here, you got your motherboard, 20 pin plus 4 pin, so you got your 24 pin cable here. You got a dual 4 pin, or a combination 8 pin CPU power. You also have your GPU cable, which is a dual 6 plus 2 pin. I think the 1080 that I have is an 8 plus 6 pin, so it'll work out great for that. And then we have 2 SATA rails, and then we have a Molex rail, and it also has a little floppy thing on here. I don't even know if anybody still uses a floppy drive, but still got the power connector for it right there. You're basically just looking at a super simple power supply here. One of the tricky things is when you go to sleeve something like this. So you have to pop open the shell if you want it to be sleeved properly. Usually what I do in this case is I take the shell of the case off and I'll sleeve all the way into the power supply. It looks like it came sleeved from the factory with single sleeving on there. So that is what I plan to do in this tutorial and show you guys how relatively easy it is. You know, sometimes it can be tricky depending on the power supply. Like some of the more high-end power supplies have a lot more involved in popping the shell off. We will see how this one plays out. Pretty straightforward when it comes to getting the shell of the power supply off. Just a handful of screws. It's a locking shell of steel, you know, bent together, and then there's some tabs and they kind of seat into each other, and a couple screws hold it together. So that is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and get the shell of this PSU popped open. Okay guys, so with that I'm going to wrap up this video tutorial on sleeving your cables and the review of the Cooler Master Masterwatt Lite 600 power supply. Again, just a quick overview of it. You got a 600 watt power supply, 46 amps on your 12 volt rail for your GPU, 20 amps on the 5 volt, 20 amps on the 3.3 volt. As you can tell, it's not a modular power supply, but you can still sleeve it and fully sleeve this power supply and make it look great. A few key things I want to go over with the sleeving. You could see in the video before I showed for melting the sleeve on top of the connector, you just slide a piece of heat shrink over, heat it with a lighter all the way around until you see the heat shrink bubble, let it cool off, and then peel off the heat shrink, and it'll give you a perfect seal around the connector to slide into the plastic connector, for the terminal to slide into the plastic connector to get a nice clean look at the end of your cable here if you want to go with the heat shrinkless method. The other way is leaving heat shrink on the edge of the cable. It's a lot trickier to do and make it look nice. Each piece of heat shrink has to be cut perfectly to the same size, melted and heated at the exact same spot to have it in a nice clean row, but it's a lot easier to just go this route. Another thing, when you get your cable sleeve and you run it all the way into the power supply, on here is the board, on the board where all the wires meet, there's a piece of heat shrink. What you want to do is get all your sleeving into that terminal where it's soldered, drop a drop of super glue down in the middle of the sleeve, and then put a tie wrap around it. And what that'll do is lock the sleeve onto the cables down inside by the power supply, so you don't have your cable sleeving pulling up out of the power supply hole here and making it look ugly around the edges where the wires come out. So drop the super glue down in between, just one drop, doesn't take a lot. Pulling the tie wrap nice and tight where you put the super glue will hold them in place once the super glue dries. Sometimes you might have to open up this hole on the power supply with like a Dremel tool. The cables will not fit. Sometimes when you put all the sleeve on, it kind of leaves you with no room for the cables to come out. So overall, this is a pretty solid power supply, and for the price point, you really cannot beat it. It's going to power all your basic entry-level systems without having to go totally insane with, like, if you got dual cards and full custom water loop, yeah, you're probably going to need something bigger, but if you're just running a card and you have like an all-in-one cooler or something, this is going to be plenty for you. I'm actually going to be running this in a system with 2 GTX 960s. It should do it with no problem. So I'm actually going to take my Cooler Master V1000, take it out of Celtic Forge, put that in the Pro 6, and then put this back into Celtic Forge with the 2 960s. There's an i5 processor in there, so it should handle that load perfectly fine. It's just going to be like basically an HTPC. Other than that, I think that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support. Thanks to Cooler Master for supplying the power supply, and thank you to MAINFrame Customs for supplying the Teleios sleeve. I'll put links down in the description to both products. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.